St. Thomas Mount witnessed another wave of development in the 1970s when Father Matthew Vettical, a Malayali Catholic priest in charge of St. Patrick's Church, helped Anglo-Indians and others acquire land for their homes near the church.
So Father Matthew was one of my foundation fathers, as well as St. Patrick's Church compound was where I used to go and play.
What I remember of is, yes, first Father Matthew. He was always there because he helped us with getting a place to build our house as well. Then Father Lawrence Pius, yes, Reverend Lawrence Pius. Many other priests who have been Father Mundakal and things like that.
Like Father Matthew, every Sunday evening he'll come and have at least 15 minutes chat with my parents. But after he retired and went, nobody like that.
The Infant Jesus Church at the Guindy Industrial Estate is a popular pilgrimage stop today, and Father Matthew's pioneering efforts to set up the place is not forgotten.
That's how the small church came in. That was due to Father Matthew, or else we would not have got that. He pursued that very wisely. And adult Bronchist. He was one of the stalwarts of the church.
At Guindy is the famous King Institute of Preventive Medicine and Research. Margaret Dawson's Manglorian father was at one time chief there.
Her father was De Silva, Dr. De Silva. He was in charge of King's Institute. He was German. Her brother, Terence De Silva, was my classmate in school. He went to CMC for the interview. He was in the final list because the principal of CMC was his dad's classmate. So he said, ask your dad to ring up and say that you are his son. I went and saw his dad and said, you ring up CMC fellow and tell me that his son, he gets selected. He said, no recommendation. So the boy did not do it. He was not there and he took up veterinary science.
Next to Margaret Dawson's home was that of the Taylors. Joan Taylor taught at St. Dominic's Convent, and generations of students fondly remember her. Michael Guido, a Goan from St. Thomas Mount, who is based in the US, was full of praise for her style of teaching. Joan's neighbor, Mrs. DeCosta, was a popular piano teacher who bequeathed her house to the church before her demise. Near her and opposite the church stayed the Coilos with their 3 sons, each accomplished in his own way. Mark, a captain in shipping, Andy, a chartered accountant, and Peter, an architect. Peter Coilo, on retirement after a distinguished architectural career in Melbourne, has taken to painting. This painting, about 9 feet by 5 feet, was installed at the Chapel of Mary Help of Christians in Narry Warren on New Year's Day 2019, while these images were commissioned for the St. Clair's Parish in Thomastown West. Peter's Divine Mercy painting has been installed on the main altar of a church in the Philippines. Peter's wife, Patsy, hails from the Morris family who stayed at the end of St. Patrick's Church Road. Her brother John has been a ship captain, while Mark is a pilot for Singapore Airlines at Singapore. Now let's get back on track. The racetrack, in fact. Guindy is most famous for the Madras racecourse, a popular haunt for some Anglo-Indians, especially those who have been jockeys or horse trainers. There are only 2 jockeys from the community today, Kane Brizin and Graham Ross, and just 1 trainer.
There was Bernard Ross. He was very good. His seating was best. His saddle and his son follows suit. He's got a similar seating like his father. Brave he used to be. Then there was Robert Manasseh, also a good jockey.
I had jockey friends like Robert Manasseh and a few others like Aloysius de Silva I knew, and Rodney Figueiredo was a trainer after that. And I had some fun. I didn't even win a jackpot before my mom's brother passed away. He used to encourage me, and we won a jackpot. And then after
what did you do with the money that you got?
Well, I would say that it's an addiction. So whatever you get in your winnings would always go back, because you never make money out of gambling, right? And it has to be put away at some time in your life. If not, you'll go down the chute.
There must be an electric air in the stand.
The atmosphere is always charged. Always at that finishing point, the atmosphere is always charged, especially if the favourite is in the contention.
Have you seen anybody breaking down at the races? You say they've lost so much of money. Have you any time seen people like that?
Breaking down, I haven't seen people breaking down, but I've seen people pressing.
Aloysius de Silva was a jockey during 1972 to 82 and now looks after a stable of 32 horses, most of which he owns, and I asked him how he survived the competition.
See, here you have to be shrewd. It's not a crook or a roguish way, but you have to be shrewd. If you are not shrewd, you're finished. They wipe you out. And I'm the only Anglo over here fighting against that.
We were fascinated by his knowledge of horses and were curious, what would a rider do if his horse were to bolt?
I had one trainer by the name of trainer for 4 days. One horse used to run away with me. Whenever I sat on it, it ran away. He'll tell me, come son, I'll show you how to handle this horse. He'll just take the reins, roll it on his hand, and he'll have it like that. The horse won't move 1 inch. It'll be just go the work he wants. And he said, come along with me. And I used to go along with him on another horse.
He was an Anglo-Indian,
No, he was an Australian jockey.
I inquired if his son would also take to this profession.
Now everybody wants the children to study, and I think they're all studying today. I mean, I don't want both my children to come to racing. So that's why I told them. I said, no, whatever you want to do, you'll do, but no, we're in the race course.
We caught up with a legend of racing on the sidelines of the Bangalore races in March 2017.
Hi, my name is Sinclair Marshall. I was born in Chennai. I studied in a school called St. Anthony's Convent, Pudupet. And I dropped out of school when I joined the apprentice jockey school in Chennai in the Madras race club, the very first of its kind in India. And there were quite a few boys who were together with me doing the apprenticeship. Like I said, a few of them made it and a few of them didn't make it. But believe you me, it was a hard grind to be what I am today. It was hard work all the way. A lot of sacrifices had to be made, and I'm glad I did it. Because if I am to be born again, I think I'll do the same thing all over again. This is something I love. It's my life. It's my passion.
Sinclair has had over 1,000 wins to his name and was also instrumental in starting and running the Jockeys Association of India for 25 years. We asked him about the jockeys of his time.
During my time, I would say Robin Connor, Nelson Rubin, Annie Alford, Ronnie Buttvine, much before he went, very senior to me, and my brother Lloyd, and he's won one of the major races also in India. And just to mention a few, there are quite a few Anglian boys who made it to the top in India. And eventually they all went away, got heavy. Some of them went to Australia, some of them went away to England, some of them went away to Canada.
As far as the Madras races are concerned, things are on the upswing.
This is going to be one of the best race courses soon. It's being led by a very good gentleman, and so there's a lot of improvement. A lot. When I say a lot, it is just changed. It's fantastic now.
So Madras is going to come back on the racing map of the country
in a very, very big way. It has, and it will also grow even further.
A little beyond Guindy, but before Saidapet, is a pilgrimage spot associated with St. Thomas, popularly known as Little Mount. Several Anglo-Indian families resided here at one point of time. With some difficulty, we managed to locate an Anglo-Indian home.
Sunday Mass, about 5-6 families are there. They come for Sunday Mass.
Can you name these families?
Shirley Upton, Shireen Upton, Jacqueline Fraser, Audrey Romeo, and myself, Gertie Gonzalez.
One of my friends who did her course along with me lives here in Littlemount. Married, she moved to UK. Didn't like it. She's come back. She's doing really well. She's a teacher in the international college, I think so, international school. So she's doing pretty well.
What's her name?
Leontine Briggs at the moment. It was Leontine Roberts.
A few of my friends have stayed here, so pretty much hasn't changed pretty much to me personally. But I think my mum and my aunties and everyone, for them it's changed a lot because a lot of their friends and relatives have moved on.
As a community, do you think we are fading away here in Madras?
Definitely.
What makes you think?
Identity has drastically reduced from what we were, to a large community, having dances and a lot of sporting activities. Now it's just reduced to almost like maybe once in a year. That's it.
We next stop at Alandur, which is separated from the hillside of St. Thomas Mount by the Grand Southern Trunk Highway.
Yeah, for the first couple of years we were always here in Alandur till I finished my PUC, and it's only after that I started getting involved with the ICAF, and then later on I was the youth wing of the Anglo-Indian Association. Yeah. In those days the associations were quite active. I don't know now. Yeah, some of these areas.
Who were active in bringing people together in your time, right? Any names you remember?
I can remember Mr. Gannon, my uncle Rodney Johnston, Mr. Lazaro. Yeah.
I stepped into the home of Jerry Fernandes along with our cameraman Owen Lobo, and we were received very warmly.
So you like Alandur?
Yeah.
Well, it's in Thomas Mount actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But known locally as Alandur, and now made more famous thanks to the metro. There were other Anglo-Indian families here in Alandur when you moved?
Yes, but we didn't meet many of them. There was one, Cunningham, I think, just next to us, or a couple of streets away, not too sure. Then there was the Sarrow family, the Wilsons, the Karens, a few others.
Jerry, in fact, stays in an apartment complex which is predominantly Anglo-Indian. One of the residents is Beyond Sarrow, who has been composing songs for Tamil films.
So I work closely with Anirudh Ravichandar. He's a childhood friend of mine. We're also bandmates. So one of the films I worked recently on was Velakaran. Besides that, there was in 2018.
Last year?
Yeah, last year. I had done my first, my first film release that I had done the entire music for. The name of the movie is Naal Perikku Naladana Yadum Tappilla.
That's the name of one movie, yeah. Such a long name.
Yeah.
How did this journey begin, I asked him.
So my sister had an acoustic guitar that she was going to learn. I don't think she really cared much about it. So I would go to a room and just take this guitar and do random things on it, not even play it. So that's pretty much how I got into playing the guitar, and since then it's been a journey. So I like to take my guitar wherever I go.
I can feel the tides changing in your head, motive. Need your river keeps on flowing through the storm in this broken heart of mine. And as you know, rise above the storm, sing about the world, leave everything you're doing. Rise above the storm, sing about the world, and all of its changes. Rise above the storm, sing about the world, leave everything you're doing. Rise
Beyond busies himself playing or organizing bands for corporate events on a regular basis.
So the team will always consist of either a saxophonist or a flautist or a violinist. There'll always be like these, unique instruments that we don't get to hear on a daily basis.
Next door to Beyond is bass guitarist Carl Fernandes, who is part of popular Indian singer Benny Dayal's team.
In my early days, I bought a lot of these cassettes of the 80s and 90s pop albums, and although Dad never used to listen to the music, he used to play it for me and make me listen. And then I used to go over and meet Alan Dickro's Uncle Alan, and then I used to learn keyboard at his place because at that time I didn't have a keyboard. I used to watch the St. Thomas Mount Choir practicing and be there every Sunday at the practice sessions and listen to them, and that's how I got into music.
Carl is also a good cook, having learnt a thing or two from his dad, Ozzy Fernandes.
Which is your favorite dish?
To cook pork mandal.
How long does it take you to cook that dish?
45 minutes, technically. Depends if you're using a cooker or if you're making it on the...
And where do you pick up your pork from?
There's this really good pork shop here in Adambakam, where he's been there for actually around 10-12 years, and I know him quite well, so you get really good pork in Adambakam. There is one shop in Velachery actually, for all the people in Mount. I think everybody must be buying from Anthony's Coast.
Carl had earlier been the keyboardist in the Alandur church for 7 years.
There are lesser Anglo-Indians. That's the truth about it, because everybody's gone abroad. There's hardly any people there. Hardly any Anglo-Indians actually. But I mean, there are a lot of, if you see St. Anthony's church choir, it used to be filled with Anglo-Indians actually before. But now there's a lot of Tamil speaking people. Of course, they speak really good English and they sing really well actually, much better than what we could sing also before.
Indeed, a lot has changed at Alandur. The major junction at St. Thomas Mount for the new metro trains is named Alandur Station. The famous company at Alandur, Engine Valves, no longer exists there. We spoke to a former employee.
We were just a handful there, but quite like Trevor Fraser, Morris Davey, Suarez, Dougie Suarez, the Fraser Begana, and then two Peramo boys, and Denzel Almeida, and we all were like, sort of all together.
What did you do with your money? I heard you used to visit the booth shop a lot.
Occasionally, yes, I do. When you don't have work, idle mind is the devil's workshop, they say, but not very often as you think.
But I always see you with 1 quarter in your pocket. You have to tell me, how do you manage even on a dry day to get a quarter?
No, today is a dry day, yeah?
Yes, today is a dry day.
And I don't have any quarters, I only have the water.
Why is it a dry day today?
Due to the elections.
Jokes aside, Ian was very forthcoming about the community's connect with sport at St. Thomas Mount.
Charlie Huggins was one who usually used to be with the youngsters who are for hockey. So hats off to him, he's done a lot for the boys, he's giving them a lot of coaching. There's one Mr. Ray, if you do know him, he was a security officer in the general marketing. He used to coach the boys for boxing. Football, these boys used to get together. I think now the football with these youth nerds has become something great.
Oh, what a lovely header.
Loved playing football. His passion. I could say that he was life for this game. He was always practicing, going with all his friends. Played for the Red Bull team, played for his school team. And I'm so amazed. I have no words to say. And I feel like a teacher, I have no words.
Zita, your wife, was one of my closest friends who used to come. Jerry Joseph, Gerard Watts, who sadly passed away. Then I think it was Eddie, Trevor. Everyone I think used to be there. And the thing was, mom and dad were so okay with our friends. They were so cool with them as such. So everyone used to be there, and it was so much fun. Like we never thought about sitting inside and watching TV, or it was always like couldn't wait to be like okay, 5 o'clock, 4 or 5 o'clock. We had the time before we could start playing.
Fabian Fernandes recalls the morning routine ahead of a game of cricket at 8 a.m.
There are days when my cousin James, Randall, Wayne, all of us used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go all the way to the Defence Colony grounds and catch the grounds at 5 o'clock in the morning, put our mat out there, and we'll sleep till about 7 o'clock, 7:30 we'll sleep.
Not everything in the past was good, and St. Thomas Mount did witness a problem with drugs in the 80s, thanks to the presence of expat students living in the area.
Founders started the first AME college way back in 1968, and if you remember, we used to have a lot of people from Africa and all of them who used to come here and study, and they used to stay down the second lane. So if you remember, those people were all part of this. And when I was a kid, we used to stay just behind this the wall of this college, and on North Parade Road. And next to it, we had one other hostel which is called Eagle's Nest. And there we had people like Stanley Menon, if you remember, who used to be there and who used to stay next to us. And then we had other people like John B. Tate and other guys from Africa, US, all staying there. They used to trouble me the most.
In what way?
Pull my pants down.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, the blacks used to, have their own ways. Then they started dominating the place because they had extra money. Because, they were dealing with drugs. But I got a little nice taking it the first time. Then I became an addict. Then I used to sell it just to smoke it. Then I got involved. Then I was booked. That was the bad side of life. I have been in prison for nearly about 3.5 years.
And we did start a brilliant movement through Alan de Cruz, which was called ADAM, which is Anti-Drug Abusement Movement way back then, which I was part of. And that was the first time where we actually got the experience of working with drug addicts and things like that. And we handled it very well, very, very well. Thanks again to Alan, I guess, and brother Desmond Daniels, who helped us out as well during that time.
Parrish recalls how strict his dad was with him.
Anytime I done wrong, I could not go home. The hill steps was my night hall. And there are a lot of friends to keep company for the night. So I didn't have a problem.
Most of his friends are now overseas. Anybody you fondly remember?
Yeah, I have a lot of people in Australia. The brothers, the D'Souza brothers are there. Stephen D'Souza is there.
Anyone in England?
Yeah, Eddie Pace is there. And few others like Manasseh and Lloyd McPherson is there. I mean, we had good times when they were involved. My chosen friend right now is Eddie Pace. He's covering all my...
Impulsive by nature, Parrish would never hesitate to provide ground support to an Anglo-Indian in trouble. He can also be quite territorial.
We respect our women, but our women is not respected by others. It falls up into a fight. We can, say like, hey, dance, please dance properly. There's a way of dancing. We can't dance, just leave the girl alone. Most of the time, Mount doesn't have problems like falling into fights and arguments. It was always a loving show. But only when the outsiders come, there's trouble.
My older sisters, there's quite a big gap between Millie, Louise and Val and us younger ones. So they used to have the music going, old Billy Joel and all of that nice music, Pussycats. And all the young boys used to come to Millie for dancing lessons. She used to be quite a good dancer. So she used to teach them to dance. And we kids used to play cards, rummy.
And did she charge a fee for training people to dance?
No fee. It was just all good fun.
Yeah, I got music set. I'll go dance even myself, and my wife enjoys me dancing, and she sometimes dances together with me, and that's the happiest moment. happy day is here again.
I like to sit and watch people dance and see them jive, though I am not a jiver or a great dancer.
What's your favorite dance? Is it the jive?
Jive, freestyle dancing, even slow dance.
Where did you learn to dance?
There was this guy from Mount, his name is Gavin Rodrigues. He used to be one of the best dancers in Mount. And when I met Brendan, I never knew how to dance and I was going for a dance. So I called Gavin home and asked him to teach me how to dance.
Ian Meagher recalls the sights of house parties.
The King's House was number one. The Nest was another one. If you know the Nest?
Eagle's Nest.
Yeah, Eagle's Nest.
This is you learned dancing at college?
Not at college. When we have Christmas dances and any Christmas parties in homes is also anywhere. Like I just learned dancing.
So it came naturally to you?
Naturally, yeah. It just came naturally.
Okay. Who taught you to dance, Fabian?
Just learned it on our own. I mean, we used to have a lot of parties in Uncle Alan's house. We had a complete own circle of friends, and having so many parties, we just picked it up learning, and it was good because we were all encouraged to dance. We were all encouraged to socialize with each other. So it just came naturally watching somebody else.
But the Anglo-Indian boys normally they meet the girls in the dances, so my other sisters were very interested. So I used, being the eldest in the family, I had to go like the bodyguard. So I went for a lot of dances in Shiraz and Venice and St. Thomas Mount, and a lot of pound parties and socials and all that.
Well, Christmas dances and New Year's dances used to be held at a place called Shiraz, and all the Anglo-Indians used to gather together there. And it was beautiful. It was a lovely occasion to dress up and a lovely occasion to listen to some of the greatest music, latest music. And you had all genres of dancing, you know, like pop dancing and ballroom dancing and the jive and the cha-cha-cha and everything else were performed at these little dance shows.
They took us to a dance in St. Thomas Mount on the slope somewhere there near Alan's house. We went there. Yeah, two dances. We had one in a cowboy night, somewhere in some Kalyana Mandapam. It was quite good. We enjoyed that.
So you still remember your dances?
Oh, a little bit. Foxtrot is there. My wife dances better than me. She's a good dancer.
What is St. Thomas Mount without the Anglos? I mean, so much of history, so many stories, so much of fun, the parties in the small hall, in the big hall, the dances. I mean, I hope it still continues.
My father used to take us for the dances, like in the Railway Institute, and later on, like we used to go with the Bini's, Shiraz, Perbu, all Palavrum. St. Thomas Mount, of course, we used to have, but then after that we are struggling without a hall, I guess.
Indeed, the community in Madras has been hamstrung by the lack of a common hall or association premises for its meetings and get-togethers. Calcutta has 3 clubs, Delhi has 1, Bangalore is working on a heritage centre, and so is Andhra Pradesh. But Madras remains high and dry. When something will fall in place is anyone's guess. We are now at the home of Ian Meagher, almost the last man standing at European lines, close to where it meets Matthias Nagar.
My house number 11 European lines. I was born here. I'm 66 years old and happy to be here. I wouldn't want to immigrate to Australia.
It was very close-knit neighborhood, like all the houses used to be one next to the other. And so anybody sneezes also, anybody will know. So every birthday, special occasions, Fastuli communions, the whole neighborhood will be involved.
Early mornings we used to come up around 5:30, 6 o'clock to Mount, meet the entire gang of friends here. And all of us used to go jogging up to the hill from the back of the hill through the road. So yeah, the hill was very important.
The hilltop? The hilltop was an evening session gathering together all the Anglo-Indian youngsters. That's what this full area was with Anglos. From number 1 to the south and the back. Now there's no Anglos at all.
Do you remember the names of those who stayed on this street?
On this street, number 11 European lines, One was Mrs. Norton, second was Mrs. Hall, third was Dokis, the fourth was a Malayali, then the Sydenhams, then the Wells, then the Hilliers, then who was this? Another Malayali woman. Then we had the Talits over here and the Meaghers here. On the left was White, Wilkins, the Youngers, and there are so many.
We had a word with Ian's daughter.
I say I don't have a future here because we slog and we don't get the money we need. So I want to do my studies and I want to move abroad. Thinking that I'm not saying that my parents have not given me the perfect life, but I want to have a nice life, plus I want to give them a nice life. So I think if I finish my B.Ed and I go abroad, so I learn my money and come back here to my parents.
Oh, you don't want to emigrate?
I don't want to. I just want to make my money and come back.
Crystal, I find that almost every other minute when I'm talking to you, there's a plane flying past overhead.
That's distracting us.
No, that doesn't matter, but I wonder how you guys get sleep.
We're just used to it. I'm born and brought up in St. Thomas Mount. So I'm just used to the flights, noise, and everything around my house is noisy only.
Kristen sings for Choir for Christ, a choral group which had its genesis at Patrician College in Nadia.
We have a lot of choir meetings and we have a lot of praise and worship sessions, and we have trips, we have camps also, like retreat centers. And then for Lenten season we have been going to churches and we have been singing, like spreading that our God is risen already. And even during Christmas time we go around to everyone's houses, like for caroling. Literally we carol the whole night, we carol till 9 a.m. in the morning. So yeah.
And you have other Anglo-Indian singers in your group?
Our choir master is an Anglo-Indian. His name is Daniel Shock, as I told you.
And of course, there is the very quaint Wesley Church at Mount.
So as a family, we worshipped at the Mount Wesley Church, which is the little church at the foot of the hill. It was a delightful little church, and I think most of our mischief happened at Wesley Church. The compound was there for us to play, to learn cycling and to teach others cycling. The ground at the back, we used to have this thing called Capac Club. Come and pray and play a while club. So it was called Capac. And I think our training to sing came from Wesley Church, because Uncle Abhi was a whiz on the piano and his fingers would dance all over that keyboard, and he would insist that we got our notes right. And at that time both of us would sing soprano and my mum was an alto. Mummy's voice, and I don't know if you know Auntie Jerry Cook. I think later on she became Jerry Lazaro. But Auntie Jerry's soprano and Auntie Yvonne, that's my mother's alto, the church members would say were more than enough to give harmony to that entire church. You could hear them without mics.
Thanks to the Anglo-Indian community, there was always a great deal of bonhomie and exchange of goodwill between the various churches.
We had Uncle Percy Lobo and Duncan Wilkins, who were always roped in whenever we had some special event in church. And I think their voices were so powerful that they gave such a richness to the performances that we had. I think my experience and move into alto came from the Garrison Church, on the other side where St. Thomas Mount Post Office is, when we were celebrating some centenary celebration, and Handel Manuel, the very famous pianist, had come to train us to sing the Alleluia chorus.
The St. Dominic's Convent in St. Thomas Mount was a second home for many an Anglo-Indian girl who studied here.
The school had a huge dog, and that guy he loved Grandpa, and he put his paws on the window of the car, and Sister Loyola would speak to Grandma and to Grandpa, and they used to have such a good chat.
So St. Dominic's must have been chock-a-block with Anglo-Indian girls?
Yeah, not chock-a-block, but there were quite a few. We had a mixed bunch of Anglo-Indians. But all of the Anglo-Indians that lived in St. Thomas Mount, most of them studied in St. Dominic's Convent. And now most of them are not there anymore. They've gone to the US, or Australia, or New Zealand, or someplace.
Most teachers were also Anglo-Indian.
Of course, my teacher, this was that time. My gosh, I was so happy with her, because she was someone I could take any problem to.
And who taught you French? You had any tuition teacher?
Yes. an amazing man, I must tell you, because he'll always offer us a lot of snacks when we go there, so we look forward to go to those. His name is Uncle Lobo.
Oh, okay.
If I'm so good in French today, I have to give it to him.
So you're talking about Percy Lobo?
Yes.
You had other Anglo-Indian girls studying there?
Quite a lot of them. Good friends of mine also. Mari Rennick, I remember. And I had lots of friends like Christine Pearson, who left and joined Holy Angels because she had to go into a boarding school. Then there was a Christopher Jones.
So I was telling you, we had boys till the 5th standard, 4th or 5th standard, I think. No, 4th standard. And Lyndon Fisher was there, Gavin Morris was there. He was my most desired square dancing partner. And they would always pair me with somebody else, and I always wanted to dance with Gavin. Then there was Jeffrey Lawrence, there was, I said, Burl Davies.
St. Dominic's had boys at the time?
Up to the 4th standard, for many years. After that, they did away with the boys section and we had only girls. But it was fun having boys till the 4th standard.
Initially, it was a co-ed till around 4th standard, and then they did away with the boys,
So when
we were greatly saddened.
So you studied there from
first standard. Started Marian School for LKG, UKG, then Dominic's from 1st to 10th.
And you had other Anglo-Indian girls from other places coming to the school?
From Pallavaram, from Alandur, from Ramapuram, we had quite a few. We were a small group of Anglos though.
Being close to school, and we used to come home for lunch. That was one thing that I remember, because we all used to Honey Huggins, Maureen Matthews. We'll all, as soon as the bell rings, we'll all come together home for lunch, eat lunch, and then just that short time we had to rush back to school.
We studied together. It's Jackie de Nazareth, Gail Lopez, who is now in US, and Jennifer Andrews, who is in Australia. Jackie de Nazareth is in Canada. I'm the only one still in India.
Somebody has to be here now.
Yes, hold the reins.
Yes, hold the fort.
Hold the fort, yeah.
We all studied together in St. Dominic's, and that time and all we used to have bus strikes, no autos and rickshaws, all Kalnada only. From St. Thomas Mount, we'd all, one gang of us Anglo-Indians, we'd walk and come. What fun we used to have on the way. Even standing, 18A used to come, bus. We used to stand with St. Thomas Mount post office to wait for the bus. There too we'd be playing kabaddi on the road.
We were pleasantly surprised to learn about the school's heritage.
It used to be the residence of Robert Clive. And I remember our classrooms of the 4th, 5th and 6th standards. They were the stables in which Robert Clive's horses were housed, and the main building was the residence of Robert Clive, and there are some rooms which are behind right now the convent building, which used to be the jails of for the prisoners that were taken during Clive's time.
Today, there are very few Anglo-Indian students on the roll and only one Anglo-Indian teacher. This is the case with most Anglo-Indian schools. There are about 40 Anglo-Indian schools in Tamil Nadu, over half of which are in Madras. These schools are, for various reasons, Anglo-Indian in name only.
The syllabus is common syllabus for all, but government themselves felt that we should not remove the board name. So we are happy.
But having the Anglo-Indian tag is beneficial to school managements as it would entitle them to government aid. What kind of audit this goes through is anybody's guess. Next to St. Dominic's is the Montfort Co-ed School, which has many Anglo-Indian teachers on its rolls. However, in the past, Montfort had been more famous for its technical institute.
I was trained in Montfort ITI for 2 years training, 74-76. After from 76 to 2014, I worked there.
Okay.
It was started mainly for poor Anglo-Indian boys. Brother Zephyrin, Zek brother started it. But nowadays, no one is going for this training because you have to work hard in mechanical line. So they don't want this. They want all easy jobs.
And tell me something about your children, what they're doing.
My daughter has finished biotechnology in Stella Maris, but she's working in IT in IBM. Her husband also is a IT IBM. My son is a senior software engineer in HCL London. A small daughter is studying MSc IT.
The first principal over there was a German by the name of Brother Zephyrin. He recruited only Anglo-Indian boys. I can name them also. Keith Ellis was one of us. Rocky Rosario, Gordon Henderson, was other two guys immigrated off, and myself. We were real rowdy boys over there, especially Rocky. And Carlton Lobo, he was together with us.
What sort of mischief, I ask him.
If the van comes and nobody's around, Rocky will jump into the van. Come on boys, I'm the conductor, driver, get in. And he used to start the van and the van went right into the car at the gate.
So what was your role there?
I was a turner. There's 5 trades there. There were 5 trades there. Electrician, electronics, and machinist, turner, welder. Draftsman civil was there, but it was closed, and even computer also was there, but closed.
And your brother is also there?
My brother was a training officer in the workshop. Turner, machinist, welder, and for all trades.
What's his name?
Perry Claremont.
Okay, is he still there?
He's still there.
Some boys, however, did their technical training at Jotech near Basin Bridge.
So back at Jotech, I think the guys who did machining with me was Gordon Glover, and there was another guy from Trichy, Elvis Roberts, but I've lost touch with him, so it'll be nice if I can catch up.
Now this training, was it helpful to you once you moved to Perth?
Absolutely, this is what I'm doing now, so it's really helped me. And I'm doing CNC machining, so definitely helped my career.
Anglo-Indian boys took to mechanical and other trades quite naturally.
Apart from the gardening that I do, a little carpentry, a little masonry, wherever I can do any little thing, I do it.
Anglo-Indians seem to be good with their hands.
I tell you, our brains are not in our heads, in our hands. I dug my own well at a time. Because of necessity, I dug my own well. I went down 14 feet till we touched water.
All my children needed shoes, but the problem is I couldn't afford to buy shoes, so I started making it. I used to make clogs.
I was service, but I used to do sales also. So in fact, in the company, there were only 2 service engineers who used to do sales. That was another boy, Shaker, and myself. And we really, we did both to perfection.
I spoke to Christopher Starr, who spent several years with Caterpillar India, was the only Anglo-Indian in the Thiruvallur factory, and was Chief of Quality Control and Training.
I made jigs, fixtures, die casting dies. I specialized in die casting dies, but I also made plastic molds and compression molds, things like that. So basically, if you give me a component is like anything. You give me a component and say you want to make it, mass produce it, I can make a tool for you. I can design and make a tool for you because we also love designing. I can design and make a tool for you, put it on a machine and get you the component.
As for Trevor, his technical expertise not only gave him a career, but also came in handy for his hobby with boats.
I bought 2 boats, because one boat was given to me by an Irishman, Pat Guinan. He said, I won't give this to anybody else.
He has been a stalwart of the Royal Madras Yacht Club and is truly passionate about sailing.
Use your mind, how to trim your sails, how to get the maximum output, what is the rake angle for your mast, your fore jib, your rear thing, how you place your rudders, how you place this, how you place that, how you place your spinnakers. You got rules to that. I was lucky to represent Tamil Nadu in the nationals. Lots of nationals I've gone to. I've gone to Hasragata, in Bangalore, Cochin, Ernakulam, Vizag, in Pune, Karagavasla, Bombay,
we had one Anglo-Indian Commodore. He was a retired Commodore of the Indian Navy. He started his career sailing when he was retiring. Parrish Claudius. Nobody like him in this world I can find.
Trevor now leads a retired life at his home on the Mount. Many of the old landmarks near the foothill are still around, and Mahalingam continues to do what he has been doing for over 50 years. The cantonment still runs a hospital, a wedding hall, and a school. Rosalind Loda continues to run her charitable veterinary clinic single-handedly. Dinky Fagin, poor as she is, somehow finds the wherewithal to feed the street dogs. The buffaloes still have their rites of passage, no matter how peak the evening traffic is. The Way of the Cross on Good Friday mornings, animated by Lorraine Dimnell and backed by the youth choir, continues to be a huge draw annually. St. Patrick's Church has for many years been noted for its exceptional choir.
It started first with Neville De Silva, who was there at the 545 Mass Choir. We were close. And Alan was the choir master. And we had a good time. We were about 40 strong.
Who are the prominent singers in the choir?
Of course, Wayne Hanrahan, Erin Island, Nicola O'Connor. Mostly the solos would be David's solos.
Bede Van Holtren donates his time to the church daily as a catechist and has been helpful to those grieving the loss of a loved one. The death of a member unfailingly brings the community together at the wake, the funeral, or even at the memorial service. Mention must be made of Paul Harding, who has helped many in the past with monument-related work.
So I had this job opportunity to work with the undertaker, Vincent Parker, where I learned the work. And then when I left, I started on my own monuments. And also I branched out into landscaping, because working with natural rock, that has been a passion for me.
So, you must have done quite a few graves at St. Patrick's Church Cemetery.
I have done quite a lot. I've done in the Garrison Cemetery. I've done all over the city. I've done in Kilcock, I've done in Kubel Island, I've done work in Padi, I've done work in Tambram, Labram Cemetery, the two cemeteries, St. Stephen's and the Catholic Cemetery.
What's the toughest part about engaging in this line of work?
I think the proofreading and the engraving is the toughest part.
Paul is also greatly interested in collecting old coins. This interest began in his childhood days.
22.40 mm end to end.
Very good. And then you have the thickness of the coin. If you want to check its genuinity,
Okay.
1.59 mm.
Paul stays adjacent to the hill steps in a little compound consisting of about 5 quaint homes.
When we moved in there, Mari Highland and Raymond Highland with us this side. And we had Almeida's in the middle, and we had the Simons on the other side. Simon family. We used to enjoy ourselves. Mornings, especially filling water. Always Desmond Almeida was there, and Elvis Lettery to make the day with a laugh. So you don't even know the thing of filling water.
Today, besides Paul, the Chesters and the Browns reside here. Their peace is beautifully disturbed for 3 days in mid-December each year, when the Mount Feast is celebrated. The feast day itself is on December 18th and is observed in honor of Our Lady of Expectation, to whom the Hill Shrine is dedicated. The feast has, by historical accounts, been observed faithfully every year since 1558. But the liturgical services have been overshadowed by the various village stalls that flank the roads adjacent to the church. The spectacle is to be seen to be believed. People milling around the foothill, cheek by jowl, wanting that salt jar or this animal dye or an old coconut scraper. We had a word with Muniamma, who sells flowers at the foothill of the mount. What you're making?
I time the flowers.
Okay, what? So late you're starting your work?
What to do? Can't do anything. Now only sleep.
Okay.
I brought it.
Okay.
Now only I bought it and sleep. Then I...
You'll get people coming here?
Oh yes. 3 more of my sell-out.
Oh, 3 more already you sold, eh?
Already. Oh yes.
But the Anglo-Indians are not buying from you?
No, England won't come.
Ah.
Only Indian people only.
From where you learned to speak such nice English?
Aunties only.
Indeed, most of the domestic helpers at Anglo-Indian homes have picked up our lingo, as well as our cuisine.
My servant cooks as good as what I would cook at the Anglo-Indian way of cooking itself. She can make anything at the moment. If I just tell her to make a vindaloo or make a snake koi stuffing or a ball curry or coconut rice, she's there. She's done it all.
Indeed, those were the days of big families, but in most cases, the children have gone on to settle in different parts of the world.
We just hung out with our cousins, my mother's sister's children, like Julian, Shane, Judy, my brother Gerald, Sabina. So we didn't really have a lot of friends because we were such a big family already.
Some landmarks are almost extinct, such as Jayanti Theatre on 7 Wells Street.
We used to go to Jayanti, sometimes to Madhi, Theatre, depending, because they used to show English movie. An English movie followed by a Tamil movie. So if we go at 9, we are returning only at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Paul remembers a push cart at Meenambakam, where one could be sure to get dinner past 2 a.m.
Dosas and chicken curry, egg dosas and chicken curry. We used to enjoy it. And we used to take the bike and go after having a good drink.
The most visible change at St. Thomas Mount can be found at the St. Patrick's Cemetery. There is a shortage of burial space, and in the clamour, the tombstones of old graves are quietly discarded and their land reallotted to new arrivals. The Garrison Cemetery next door is greener but unkempt.
They had a tombstone, and when we came back, we found everything gone. What they used to do, I don't know.
So you still haven't found the graves?
No, I don't think. Maybe someone else is reburied. It's gone a long time, 75, long time. Anyway, I said, they're gone, and let them rest in peace.
This is a tricky situation here, because the church requires the space. The history part of it is lost.
Perhaps the church has to take a lesson or two from the way the Commonwealth Graves Cemetery, located nearby at Nandambakam, is maintained. There are 856 graves here of principally British soldiers who lost their lives in World War II. At the rear end is a stone of remembrance listing the names of those who died in the First World War. The site was maintained by the Logan family for 35 years from the time of its inception in 1952.
and only the names. We used to have a big book with all the names. And slowly they changed it from wooden cushions into old type of headstone, which was Portland symbol. And after that, once one broke or something got destroyed, it was replaced by a marble. From Italy, they used to import it.
Pat should know, for his family stayed in the bungalow here and he grew up on the premises.
And then my father from 52 himself from more than 19, little short of 20 years, he did get a certificate from the Queen Elizabeth that he had worked for the British government.
When his dad Patrick passed away, his brother Jimmy took over as manager. Is Jimmy still doing gardening in Australia?
No, he finished up there. The same cemetery used to work there in Springville, in Melbourne.
The gardener at the site recognized Pat and came up for a chat as we were speaking to him. I asked him how they were able to maintain the cemetery so well.
Sir, this is England government.
November 11th is a big day each year.
All over the world celebrate the Poppy Day, Remembrance Day. All those who died during the
Poppy Day?
Poppy Day. They give you red poppies to me. We used to make poppies. And we go and get St. Mary's Church in Port St. George. We used to go to special services.
You used to make it here?
Yeah, we used to make a roll. My mother and sisters also used to, but they cut paper and make it. Dad used to make that time. They used to call it Poppy Day, Remembrance Day. 11th of November, 11 a.m. They sound the last post to honor all the soldiers who died.
We revert to the gardener, who was as pleased as Punch to meet Pat.
அப்பாக்கு ரொம்ப பழக்கம் சார் ஆங்கிலேண்டெல்லாம். அப்போ வந்து நம்ம பட் ரோட்டில் ஃபுல்லாக ஆங்கிலேண்டு தான். நம்மளுக்கு அப்பாவுக்கு ஃபுல்லாக ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஷிப் எல்லாமே ஆங்கிலேண்டு தான். இப்போ பார்த்தா ரொம்ப பேர் அவங்கவுங்க ஊருக்கு போயிட்டாங்க வெளிநாட்டுக்கு. அதெல்லாம் பார்க்கும்போது ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமாக இருக்குது சார் எனக்கு.
Pat passed away in Melbourne last October, battling bravely against cancer. Today there are hardly 40 families in St. Thomas Mount, their social lives quiet compared to the past.
Regarding the Anglo-Indian community, we were a unit always together. We used to have jam sessions every week, we used to have rummy sessions, we used to have indoor games, we used to have cultural programs, we used to have dances. A lot of activity used to take place, but unfortunately we don't see those activities being implemented today. It's all history, it's all become obsolete.
Because when we first immigrated, we were the only two, well, we were only a couple of families there. So going from such a large family with so many, in-and-outs and parties and weddings, and going to Australia was a bit isolating at the beginning. But we used to always look forward to our coming back to India at Christmas time.
But now you've got more family in Perth than in Madras.
That's the issue now. I mean, we have more of our people over in Australia to see and visit than we actually, when we come here, there's very few of us left here.
In St. Thomas Mount, every Saturday and Sunday, all the Anglo-Indian cousins and Anglo-Indian friends gathering around at the De Cruz's residence, and everyone would be there and playing hand tennis and cricket and hide and seek, and it would be like 25-30 people. Of course, I was a kid. Everybody was. I was one of the youngest in the group actually. But everybody would be, playing games, and there'd be food and there'd be juice, and those days never go back.
Yeah, now when you look back to the same house, you wonder what happened.
Yeah, there's nobody left in Mount. Actually, right.
I mean, whenever we meet our friends, all we talk about is the good old days. Playing in Defence Colony ground, playing behind the war cemetery, Garrison Church, taking our cycles, going behind Monkey Hill and swimming in the pond, swimming in the river. Those are things that we always talk about, and it's fantastic. Childhood.
We would probably be the last generation in India, and I don't think our next generation will be here anymore now.
If I had a choice, I'd move out of my place now and go back to Mount, only because everything was so close. It'll never get flooded to start with because we got over the hill, and everything is there. As a matter of fact, you might have heard of Asif Biryani. That started off in Mount. The guy became what he is today, a multi-billionaire, thanks to us patronizing his little pushcart.
Running around with my cousins, packing up snacks, planting flitters, climbing up the rocks. We have a favorite spot on the hill where we blocked it only for us. We'll hang out there from morning till evening till we get shouted at, and then we come rolling down.
The biggest change, I don't find anyone who I know there anymore. It's a complete makeover. In the early days when we were growing up as kids, we knew everybody knew everybody, and all my friends were there, my childhood friends were there, but the happiest days of my life was in St. Thomas Mount. And
Indeed, Mount has been the opiate of her children.
Thomas Mount was the bubble that kept me that obtuse.
Extremely wonderful memories. Till date, I don't think there is ever a place that I've stayed in that has brought me such joyous memories.
So when at 6 o'clock we know that we have to run home because there were no lights, there were lamps. From lamps started with bulbs, from bulbs it went to tube lights, from tube light became mercury lights, which normally we are using now. And the lights were not close by, like every 100 meters you can find a street light on the road. So it was pretty dark. What a loving place to be like St. Thomas.